So today I want to talk about Mistborn 2, The Well of Ascension. I think straight off the bat, this is obviously the second book in a trilogy, so there will be spoilers bound in this video. I did spoil the heck out of the first book, the last video that I did on this series, so I will also be spoiling the heck out of this book as well. I loved this. I genuinely, like, the first book in the series, Mistborn, is good, but I had complaints with it. This, I don't feel like I have many, if any, complaints. Like, I feel like some things come out as a bit convenient, but nothing... I don't have any, like, big, major, glaring, like, issues with the book. I think everything in this is pretty, like, masterfully done. Like, easily, this is, in my opinion, way better than the first book. Just, at least for me, because the first book was very much like setting up the world and like, these are the key figures and kind of like, this is the tone, this is the vibe, and here's your kind of like main set of characters, your main, like, your key figures, and then we're going to flip it on its head at the end, and one of the main characters is going to die. This book takes that and goes, not only, I think, bigger with it, not only does this book have a more clear, well-represented antagonist, or antagonists, which some of them don't even... Sorry, I had a little, like, flying bit of dust in my room. I apologise. Not only are they more fleshed out, because we have characters that were set up in the last book that we already know are threatening, and that we already know have, like, a big presence in the personal stakes of the characters. This feels like a more personal book, whereas the last book was like, let's go build a revolution. This book is like, what do we do next? We've got Elend, who's taken the role as king, and we find out that he's not very good, and this book is kind of his kind of coming of age story. This is more Elend's book than I think it is Vin's. Vin has a lot to do. It's not like in The Witcher, which is the only other series that I've read, where if you have a book that is more focused towards one character, then the other character doesn't really do a lot. No, we've got... Elend has his thing that he needs to do, and he's kind of, like, training to become a better king, and then loses his kingdom, and then, you know, kind of goes through this journey from, like, introverted scholar to king, to deposed king, to basically having this role of emperor be forced on him, and then he ends the book as a Mistborn. I told you there would be spoilers. Oh yeah, I didn't lie about that point. Whereas Vin kind of had her big arc in the last book, so this book kind of is like throwing things at her, like, oh, you think you love Elend? Well, guess what? There's another Mistborn who ends up being his brother, who is gonna declare his love for you, but then he's gonna end up being evil. And, you know, She kind of has like crises of faith, and then by the end of the book, she realizes, oh yeah, I'm way more powerful than I actually thought I was. Maybe I'm even more powerful than Kelsia. Maybe I'm even more powerful than the Lord Ruler. Oh no. But I think this book handles characters incredibly well. The rest of the crew as well, the rest of Kelsia's crew, get way more in this book to shine. Um, I don't know if like page time, like page real estate, there's more developed to them. I mean, they actually have like POV spots. Like we get like a POV from Breeze, we get POV from Hammond, we get a lot of POV from Sazed, and his arc throughout the story and where he ends up. It's heartbreaking, genuinely heartbreaking. But yeah, we get a lot more introspection into the crew, and we end up caring about them all, probably because a couple of them die at the end of the book, so the book really like makes you care about these characters before ripping them away from you. Which is typical, like any kind of thing that wants to emotionally manipulate you. They're gonna set up that a character like has a family, or that the character like has a lot. You're gonna spend a lot of time with that character to find out. They're gonna die. Oh, okay. You just took my heart and stabbed it. You just stabbed it. But outside of all of the emotion in this book, and I think this book is way more emotional than the last one. If just because this is spending so much time with the characters and building up the characters way more than the first book did. The first book was like, Vin and Kelsia, it's your book, run with it. There's a supporting cast, but you don't really need to know about them. This is like, everyone's important because I want Sanderson is basically like, he's a sadist in this book. For basically, Brandon Sanderson is a sadist, and he wants you to feel like any of these characters could die at any point, and he will just laugh at you because he made you care about them, and now they're dead. But I loved this book still. I hated the process of reading it, but I loved the end result. This book doesn't end. The book doesn't end. It ends in a way that like a Witcher novel would end, or like it ends knowing that it's gonna have a sequel. It doesn't end on the world is saved. They do beat the conflict. The main conflict of this book is resolved by the end of the book. So the main conflict of these three armies are looking at the Théodule, and they're like, I want your atium. I'm going to invade and take your atium. We've got Strafventure, Ellen's dad. We've got Set, who is a king from the southern dominance. And then we've got Jace Lacal, who's leading this army of Colossus, big like Hulk-like creatures, which are like blue-skinned. Some of them, the smaller ones, their skin is like saggy and doesn't really fit their body. And then the larger ones, essentially these are creatures that don't stop growing, and they basically keep growing until they have a heart attack and die. Until their like heart can't take the pressure of how big they are, and then they like keel over and die. So you've got ones that are like 5 foot with really like baggy, saggy skin, and then you've got ones that are like 12 foot where their skin is like starting to tear around their muscles and around their eyes and lips and stuff. It is really grotesque the way that the way that they're conveyed, and they end up being the biggest like threat in the book because it's essentially like facing down an army of Hulks that are all like bloodthirsty creatures, and I liked that idea, the idea of having something like smaller scale, like an army, uh, to deal, because it does feel like there's more stakes in it, in the fact of in the last book the rebellion really only endangered Vin and Kelsia, only really, whereas in this book the whole city is like ground zero for this like big massive conflict that happens, and the whole book is like Elend trying to figure out, right, how do I play these two armies against each other, and then the third comes in. It's like, this is a wild card that I hadn't even looked at, and then we get this other threat, which is, oh yeah, the mists are starting to kill people, and maybe the Lord Ruler was keeping them at bay, and killing him was maybe a bad thing. But more on that in the next book. This one is very much like the armies are the forefront, but this kind of like research on the deepness and basically Sade's whole arc in this book is just researching the deepness, finding out what his own like religion, or the religion of the Terracemen, was, and finding out the mysteries that are abound in that. A lot of stuff happens in this book. I mean, look at it. Way more happens in this than I have time to actually talk about. There's so much. Like, Breeze has a love interest who's like only just legal age princess who is mind controlling him to be seduced by her. It's there's so much. Like, Sazed ends up falling in love and ends up the person that he falls in love with ends up dying in the big final conflict, so his whole worldview gets kind of messed up and he just leaves at the end of the book. I freaking love this. And I'm so excited to get to the Hero of Ages, because not only does this set up something really interesting going forward and set up a really cool finale, but also I've heard that that's the best book in the trilogy, and if this isn't the best book in the trilogy, and that is, I want to know why, because there were nights that I couldn't not put this down, just going chapter to chapter, basically just staying up till 3:00 to get chapters finished. I don't want to put this book down, and yeah, I freaking loved it. So if the next book is even better, bring on the next book, because this is insanely good. If you haven't read the Mistborn trilogy yet, I think this is the one where I will say, read it. This by far is the starting off point for Brandon Sanderson. If you've heard of the writer and you're like, I want to get into that, but the Stormlight is 1,000 pages. That's scary. That's scary. Pick up Mistborn. Pick up this. Pick up the last book, which I'm sure I will be gushing about in just over a month anyway. Or maybe just under. I think I actually got through this quicker than I got through Mistborn. And Mistborn is about 100 pages lighter than this. So, yeah, I really enjoyed this. I don't know what else to really say. How many times can I say I loved a book? How many times can I glaze a book? Yeah, I just, yeah, this really, like, got me in the feels, and I just loved it. I loved every second with this book. Like I said, not perfect, but I think very few things are perfect, especially in my eyes. Very few things are perfect, but this is the closest I've gotten to perfection when coming to a book. And I've seen a little bit of like controversy surrounding like Brandon Sanderson, and is he overrated? Is he a fad writer at the moment? And I think if this is anything to go by, I can't speak for the rest of his I can't speak for the rest of his portfolio as of yet. I think that's a question that I will answer with the end of the next book anyway. At least with the end of the next book. I think I would have to read a substantial chunk of the Stormlight archive as well to be able to come to a conclusion on that. But where I stand right now is it doesn't matter if Sanderson is a fad writer, or if he's like here to stay. I think what matters is this is a great book. No matter like the writer, and that's not even me saying that anything controversial, like anything importantly controversial, has come out about Brandon Sanderson. Nothing has. It's just I've seen videos pop up as saying, is Brandon Sanderson losing his luster? Is Sanderson an overrated writer? Is he worth the hype, essentially? Where I'd say, as a writer, that remains to be seen on my end. However, I would say Mistborn, at least as a first trilogy, judging by the quality of the first two books anyway, and especially judging by the fact that I've heard that one behind me there is even a step up. This might be a Captain America trilogy situation where each one is better than the last. I think judging from the two that I've read and the amount of hype behind that one, I would say that Mistborn at least does not. I think it deserves all the hype that it's received, and yeah, it's gotten me excited about a fantasy series like nothing has before. That's all I really have to say, to be honest. If you have read the Mistborn trilogy, first of all, do not spoil the last book in the series. I want to go into that completely fresh. I'm sure there's people watching this that haven't read the series, that want to go, or that have only read the first two and don't want to go into the next into the next book knowing what happens. So please be respectful of that in the comments. I know these are slightly older books. Well, these are books that have been out for a while, but I'm only getting to them now. So please do not spoil any further into the series. Also, let it be said, please do not spoil the Stormlight Archive either. What I will say though is, please do leave a like, leave a comment, subscribe. Let me know your thoughts on the first two first two books in the Mistborn trilogy, and also let me know what is required reading for the Cosmere after this. So after Mistborn, what should I tackle next? Am I okay going from the Hero of Ages straight to the Way of Kings? Am I okay doing that, or is there something to read in between? And are the Stormlight Archive novellas required reading? Because if they are, I will get to them as well. But yeah, that's all I really have to say. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell. I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.